Money for hostages, oil in Guyana, which is right next to Venezuela. Venezuela. Today on the Worldview. Everybody, my name is Chris Greco. I'm here with the Worldview to show you 30 minutes of how the world actually interacts and how one thing, it's like the butterfly effect, how one thing can then interact and go into another thing, and actually affect something over here. And today what I want to talk about are two different areas. I want to talk about Guyana and the oil area, and how they're doing with the oil, which will show some data, and we'll talk about the different areas and basically the location of Guyana, which is really important to understand the location. And then I want to turn to the current $6 billion that the U.S. has released of frozen Iranian assets to get hostages back from Iran. And it may look like a good thing. And trust me, if I'm a hostage in a foreign country, I don't care how much money it is. I want to get out of that country. I get all that. But what they do is they, meaning the U.S. government, and I really want to focus on the State Department. I think, and I'm going to just say right now, this is opinion. But after being with the Department of Defense and dealing with the State Department is really interesting about how they love to do diplomacy until diplomacy fails, and then all of a sudden they immediately turn to other things like money and like weapons, and all of a sudden it's a whole different deal for them. And diplomacy is diplomacy. When you're dealing with weapons, you're dealing with money, it's a whole different deal to me. But basically, the State Department has one thing in mind, and that is, they have the career diplomats, and those are the people that go out there and they're ambassadors, and they're really good ambassadors, and they really try hard to do what they need to do. And then there are people that are political, and they are extremely political, and they're the ones that are, the Secretary of State is a political appointee. And this happens a lot in the federal government. I've been on federal government agencies where they put political appointees in, and let me tell you something, they are absolutely, I'm sorry, majority of them are absolutely the worst. They are what I call bucket leaders. They have a bucket of water and they stir it around like crazy and spill it and whatever else, and then they leave and the bucket goes back the way it was. The water goes back the way it was in the bucket. And that's the way they want to build their resumes. They want to do whatever they want to get their book written. They want to do whatever they need to do to be able to make that work. And I'm sorry, but Secretary of State is no different. He's out there. He's trying to make political clout, and he's doing it by giving weapons to Ukraine. Our chief diplomat, and now they're giving money. They're freeing up money for hostages. So let's take a look at. I'll tell you what. Let's take a look at that first. Let's take a look at the idea that about the U.S. releasing that, because I think that's important. The BBC does a great job on this. I'm just going to shove their story up here real quick, but really $6 billion in frozen Iran funds for prisoner swap. Now, let's take a look at this real quick. So you have Iran, right? Now, Iran is the sworn enemy of the United States. The U.S. are devils. They do not like us. They have no love lost between Iran and the United States, right? So Secretary of State told Congress that the money would be provided limited benefit to Iran, as it could only be used for humanitarian trade. Right. Yeah. And let me ask you a question. Who is going to account for that? Who's gonna be the one to oversee the ability for that to do? See, Blinken doesn't talk about that. Biden doesn't talk about that. Nobody talks about this. Who's going to oversee that money to make sure that it's only used for humanitarian needs? Iran has a big, long, very long history of taking humanitarian aid and putting it towards other things, right? Well, let me put it this way: if I'm developing nuclear power, and nuclear power is actually a clean energy, it's relatively clean energy. So COPT would love that, to be able to get rid of their fossil fuels. And therefore, that would be humanitarian in nature, so they could use it to develop nuclear things for, nuclear power like they're doing right now. So it's of course, Republicans contend the transfer, which is, that's that's to be said. I mean, that's the way it goes. Democrats do the same thing when Republicans do stuff. It just goes back and forth and back and forth. One senator accused Biden of paying a ransom to the world's worst state sponsor of terrorism. Fine, but let's take a look at it from this area. First of all, these are dual nationals, all right? American, Iranian. I love the way they put that. For American, Iranian. Now, we talked about hyphenation last time, right? Think about this. They're not Iranian Americans. They're American Iranians. I love the way that people take and use to their advantage language. And this is like made up language. Hyphenation is just made up stuff. And basically what it is like American, Iranian dual nationals have been taken out of Evin prison in Tehran. And they said they're going to be done soon. I think it's down here. Yes. Iranian Foreign Ministry, Nasir Kanani, meanwhile expressed optimism prisoner swap would take place soon. Right? So, and basically this is kidnapping. This is kidnapping. You pay ransom, I give you the bodies back. Folks, I don't give a hoot in heck what you talk about. That is the definition of kidnapping. But that's okay. We're going to pay the ransom to that. It's kind of interesting. So we're paying $6 billion. Now, let's take a look at this real quick. Okay. So we pay $6 billion to Iran. All right. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pay $6 billion to Iran because that's what we're doing, literally. Right. So let's see, $6 billion, right? But it can only be used, right, for humanitarian stuff, right? For humanitarian transfer, humanitarian whatever, right? So we're just going to put humanitarian whatever. So we have that. So we have the humanitarian, and we sit back and we go, oh, this is what we're going to have, and we're going to take a look at all this stuff, and we're going to give. We're going to give. Sorry, I have to make up some room here. So I'm going to be talking while I'm making up some room. So basically, we're going to have this. We're going to have all this. This stuff. Okay, so I made up enough room, so now I should be able to create a banner. Sorry about that. I got so many banners here. It's kind of like I just make them up, and then all of a sudden I've got rid of them, and then it goes on and on. So we have $6 billion, and the $6 billion are going to go to humanitarian stuff here, of course. And so what's going to happen is it's going to go $6 billion. So $6 billion, right, to Iran. All right. Now let's take a look at this for a second. $6 billion to Iran. $6 billion to Iran. Okay. Now let's just say hypothetically. All right. So I'm just I'm going to do the legalese here stuff. Hypothetically, let's say they do not use it for humanitarian stuff, right? So instead of using it for humanitarian stuff, so instead Iran, I don't know what they do. They build drones, right? So now they take that $6 billion and Iran builds drones. Now, hey, drones can be used for humanitarian purposes, right? They can be used to take a look at crops. It can be used for seeding crops. It can be used for, putting fertilizer down. A lot of stuff can be used with drones, right? I mean, they can use it to help take a look at climate change, right? They can take a look at that. What's going on with the climate change? Humanitarian stuff, automatically climate change, boom, humanitarian. Because that's the way it's defined. I'm not putting this out there just to be facetious. Climate change is everything. Climate change affects everything. Ask anybody that believes in climate change. Now, do I believe climate changes? I sure do. Absolutely. Climate does change. It's changing. I mean, it's the way it goes. I mean, you put down asphalt, you put down population, it's going to change everything, not just climate. It's going to change everything. So it's that's what they're going to do. So Iran builds drones, right? And then what they're going to do is then they I don't know, maybe they sell the drones, right? To I don't know, Russia. So they sell the drones to Russia. So $6 billion goes to Iran. Iran builds a bunch of drones using part of the $6 billion because drones can be used for humanitarian purposes. Of course, they load them with warheads and whatever else. But but besides that point, and then they sell the drones to Russia. Okay, so what happens then? Oh, I know. Russia uses the drones, right, against Ukraine. So they use the drones against Ukraine. So now Russia uses the drones against Ukraine. Okay, so follow my logic here. We give $6 billion, and don't sit there and tell me, oh, we didn't give it to them. We just unfroze their assets. No, we gave them $6 billion. $6 billion. They're going to build drones with that $6 billion, or part of it, or a portion of it, or whatever they want. They're going to sell the drones to Russia, and Russia's going to pay them money. And so they're going to actually make a profit off of the $6 billion we gave them. And then the Russians use the drones against Ukraine. In the meantime, what's happening here? Oh, I know it is. The U.S. is giving Ukraine, what was it, $1 billion, I think? $1 billion for weapons. Right? So now they give, U.S. is giving Ukraine $1 billion for weapons. Isn't that interesting? And some people might even use this as rationalization. They might say, hey, Chris, $6 billion, daggum well, we just didn't let it sit there, often underneath a mattress, right? We had it building, interest, right? Interest rates were, so we're having it build interest in that time. So really what we're doing is we're giving Ukraine the $1 billion in interest that we got off the $6 billion from, that or whatever $1 billion we have from Iran. So really it's kind of like, and interestingly enough, you sit back and you go, wow, isn't that funny? We go back, something sounds very familiar, like, let's see, the Iran-Contra affair? Isn't this like the Iran-Contra affair? Where the Contras, you took Iranian money and you gave it, kind of took this and kind of laundered it and did it here. And I mean, isn't that kind of what's going on? Anyways, beyond that, and conspiracy theorists have at it. But the bottom line is this: $6 billion going to Iran. We have no idea what's going to happen with that money. Now, people are going to say, oh, we're accounting for it. Horse poop. You're not accounting for it. There's no way the Iranians are going to have you account for $6 billion. They're going to hide that stuff. They're going to put it places where you don't know where it is. You just, you sit back. I love the way that people think that money can be accounted for once it leaves. Let me ask you a question. You pay something, right? You pay a bill. You pay the gas bill. You pay that gas bill, you get a receipt. Boom, there's your receipt. Do you know where that money goes? Do you have any idea where your gas money goes? Do you have any idea where your electric money goes? Do you have any idea where any of the money you pay bills for actually goes? I mean, how much of it goes for salaries? How much of it goes for equipment? How much of it goes into the CEO's pockets? How many of you actually know? I don't know. I have no idea. Those of you that want to track that, have at it, because that's accountability. That's accounting for the money. There's no accounting for this money. There's no accounting for the money we give to the Ukrainians. There's no accounting for that. None. The Department of Defense put somebody in charge of this, some general or whatever the hell it is. I'm telling you right now, there's no accounting for that money. That money is going into somebody's pocket. And what was it? Was it President of Ukraine just dumped some people because they were doing corrupt practices in their Defense Department, Ministry of Defense? I mean, hello? What the heck is going on? So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about this stuff. And you can follow the logic however you want to say, but can you understand what a worldview is? A worldview is just this. When you do something, you give $6 billion to Iran, right? Iran builds drones. They sell the drones to Russia. Russia uses the drones against Ukraine. In the meantime, we're giving $1 billion to Ukraine or whatever it is. So we give $6 billion to Iran to get hostages back. So basically, we're paying them a ransom to get hostages back. Is that gonna somehow mitigate Iran's deal? I mean, no, it's not. It's not. It's gonna end up going round and round and round. It's gonna go over and over again. They're gonna take some more hostages, take some more people prisoner. Well, we got a prisoner because they were spying. People are all spies. They're all spies. They're spies. That's what they're doing. Great. That's great. So that's what's happening now. Right now, we're giving money to Ukraine that we're not accounting for. We're giving money to Iran that we're not accounting for. This is, they say, oh, well, it's frozen funds from Iran. Part of our treasury, folks. It's part of our treasury. I mean, we froze the money to Iran, or it's part of whatever treasury. I don't give a crap what it is. It's not their money. It's frozen assets because of what they do to support terrorism in the world and on whatever else they're doing, on the side. And we're sitting back giving them their money. Oh, here's your money back. It's really your money anyways, even though you certainly weren't using it for humanitarian reasons, right? I mean, cut me a break. So that's what's happening there, and that's what's happening within that area. And I hate to take so long with it, but it's just like, just craziness. So let's turn to Guyana here. So first of all, very important. Let's find out where Guyana is, right? I think that's a cool thing. So here's Guyana right here. Where's Guyana? Guyana's here, right here, right here, right? And so this is Guyana. So what's right next to it? Right next to it is Venezuela. And Venezuela is known for what? It's oil production. One of the major oil producing countries, in the world, and certainly in South America. And there's Guyana, which is right next to them. Guyana's right next to them. So all of a sudden now, they are having a big success with oil. BBC, again, love BBC. Thank you so much. So they're talking about, President Guyana, Irfan Ali, is acknowledged time is not on our side as South American country scrambles to make the most of newfound oil wealth before it is too late. Huge amount of oil. And now boasts reserves about 11 billion barrels, puts it top 20, right? Norway, Brazil, Algeria. Algeria is interesting. Algeria is interesting. So that's it. Now, what type of prediction am I going to make with Guyana? Well, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen with Guyana. Guyana is going to take a look and they're going to say, wow, we have some oil. We have something to trade. We have some leverage. I think, this is just me, I think what's going to happen is that they're going to do SCO. They're going to do the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. They're going to contact them. They're going to make some deals. Maybe they'll contact BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and they'll talk to them. And so they're going to start making some connections here. So what's going to happen is that this is then going to end up in China's lap. It's going to end up in China's lap. That's what's going to happen. So, these people are really, really happy about that. 53%, as I speak to you, 53% of the world energy mix comes from oil and gas, Mr. Listen. 53%. Copto, they don't want that, right? It's fossil fuels. No. Can't have oil, can't have gas. Very, very bad. Climate change, right? So you can't do that. But yet here's Guyana. Boom, they're getting into the oil mix. It's really funny. Even if we had a situation 270 beyond where, let's say, 40% of the energy mix, 40% of the energy mix comes from oil and gas. Who determines who produces that 40%? So they're talking about 53%, 40% by 2070. Mr. Ali, you don't understand. The climate change is happening, right? So basically what's happening is no, they don't want 40% by 2070. They want 0%. They want no fossil fuels, none, zero, zip, zilch, zero by 2070. You're not going to have any, oil is going to be used for, I don't know, cooking. If that, well, you're going to have to cook that in electric, but that's what's going to happen, right? So it grew by 62% last year. Now let's take a look at some interesting statistics here. So because I love data. So let's take a look at this. So this is from the International Energy, U.S. Energy Information Agency, which is a government agency, EIA.gov, right? This is total petroleum and liquids production annual. Look at Venezuela. Boom, man, 74, they were going nuts. Went down here, bang, they're back up here about the 19. This is Venezuela again. Now this is Guyana, 0.0000000. This is million barrels per day, right? They're doing 3 billion barrels per day. 3 billion barrels, right? So all of a sudden they drop off, bang. 2014, they're down here to about 500. They're about down to 553. Where's Guyana? Well, that's coming up. It's now at 276. They're at 723. But I mean, look what's happened in Guyana. That's the blue right here. So all of a sudden you sit back and you go, whoa, they're coming up here. They're coming up, and Venezuela is just barely making some here. So then I thought to myself, well, how many barrels of oil does it take to make like a gallon of gas, right? So I went, again, frequently asked questions for the EIA. How many gallons of gasoline and diesel fuel are made from 1 barrel of oil? So petroleum refiners in the United States, now remember, it's not just discovering the oil. You got to refine it. You got to get it to a refinery. And these refineries have to work to be able to make this oil into gas. It's not something, and it's not a cheap process, and it takes chemicals to do this. This isn't something you just, I think we'll put through a strainer about 20, 40 times. It takes a lot of effort. So it takes produces about 19 to 20 gallons of gasoline and 11 to 12 gallons of ultra low sulfur distilled fuel oil, most of which is sold as diesel, from 1 42-gallon barrel of crude oil. Okay, so think about this just for a second. So let's go back. Guyana, producing 276 million barrels per day. 276 million barrels per day. This produces 19 to 20 gallons of motor gasoline and 11, 12 gallons. Let's just stick with motor gasoline at this point in time. 19 to 20 gallons from 1 42-gallon barrel. One barrel. All right. 1 barrel produces 20 gallons. So let's just do some basic stuff here. So what have I got? I've got this is actually fun. I like doing this stuff. So where's my calculator? There's my calculator. All right, so I've got my calculator. Come on up there. So I have my calculator, right? My handy dandy calculator. So they're producing 276 million barrels per day. 276 million barrels per day. So, calculator. 276 million barrels, right? Okay. 276 million, right? Times 20 gallons. So, we're talking, boom. Okay. 5 billion 500,000 or 500,000. 5,520,000,000 gallons of motor gasoline. 5 billion, basically 5.5 billion gallons of gasoline are produced every day from Guyana. And what is this? Let's see. What's the current cost of this? So current cost is going to be, let's say $3.50. So you sell that, and now you're making a massive $19 billion. $19 billion a day. I mean, with refined gasoline. You have to refine it first. Remember, you have to refine it first. Very, very important. So that's what you have. This right here is really great. This EIA.gov site is fantastic. I mean, you can do all kind of stuff with this, and it's so much fun. I mean, the data options you can do here, and if you hit data options, you can pick whatever you want. You can even pick world total. You know what I'd love to pick, and this is something that just let's pick China. Let's let's do China, and let's kick on that, and we're going to view the data and see if it'll kick in China for us. So what are we talking about China here? So this is China, petroleum and other liquid production. Look where it is at. Petroleum and other products. 5 billion barrels a day. 5 billion barrels a day from China. From China. Look where Venezuela is. It's down here. Let's add another one. Let's say China. Let's do because they were talking about Brazil. So let's talk about Brazil. Let's do Brazil too. So we're going to do Brazil. We're going to kick that into high gear. Take a look at this, and we'll see what comes up with that. And here's Brazil. There's China. Here's Venezuela. Here's Brazil. Look, Brazil is catching up, man. It's catching up. It's up in here. It's almost at the highest level that Venezuela had. They're there. Almost 4 billion barrels a day. 4 billion barrels a day. I mean, it's crazy. It's just nuts when you think about that. But so Guyana is really, I mean, they're going to start understanding what money is all about. And that's where it's going to be very, very interesting to see all that work. So, I mean, so that's it with that. Let's just real quick. I just want to cover Ukraine because I think it's very important. Again, BBC. Ukraine forces advance in the south. This is where the advancing is going on here. Limited Russian military control. Russian annexed Crimea, held or regained by Ukraine. This is the stuff held or regained by Ukraine. This is their counteroffensive, folks, right here. This is what, and they've spent blood and treasure doing this. But look how much they're getting. I mean, this is World War I. This is trench warfare all along this area. That's what's going to happen. Bakhmut is just it's got to be absolutely razed at this point in time. I can't imagine a building being left intact in that village, town. So it's really, really sad from that standpoint. So I mean, this is just sad situation that's happening here. Now let's talk about one other thing, and that is climate change. UN calls for radical changes to stem warming. Again, this is the UN. I mean, just real quick, and then I'm going to let you guys go. UN, right? Tackling climate change is the rapid transformation of the way our world works, travels, eats, and uses energy, according to an important UN review. Yay, UN! I'm glad you're on this. Yeah, but global stock take. Yeah, right. To examine the efforts of countries to reduce planet warming. So burning fossil fuels like oil, gas to generate electricity emits carbon dioxide, which is the main driver of climate change. No kidding. Renewable energy also needs significant expansion, while deforestation needs to be halted and reversed by 2030. Yeah, okay. So I mean, Lula's trying to do that in Brazil. So I mean, you have all this stuff. Then I heard a news story this morning about how the sonar that's being used to put in the wind farms off of the U.S. East Coast is disturbing whale spawning areas and whatever else, and they're going right into right into the waves or the beaches, and they're getting beached and everything else. So I mean, it just goes back and forth and back and forth. But that's, I just wanted to hit those two major areas, and I want you to follow my logic on that. Now, that may not be your logic, and that's okay. I put that out there so people can take a look at it, check my work, and make sure that it's being done being done correctly. I don't want to go into this gosh darn conspiracy stuff and all that. I'm just trying to figure out why is it that the State Department is giving weapons to Ukraine, giving money to Iran. Yes, it's their money. I get it. Some of you say it's their money. Yeah, it's their money. But the bottom line is that was one of the deals is they got that frozen because of what they were using of funding terrorism. Right. That was a big deal, and also the nuclear aspect of what's going on there. So, on that note, I'm going to just leave you guys. And thank you so much for listening. This is Chris Greco, and you have seen The Worldview.